Leaving work? Listen to WHAV on your smartphone during your commute.
Catch the wave!
This is Tom Hartman inviting you to tune into the Tom Hartman program on WHAV every weekday beginning at noon. I'm here 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, taking your calls live and providing all the news you need to know. The Tom Hartman program is your media support group for we the people. Again, please join me weekdays beginning at noon right here on WHAV. Remember, only local radio can bring you this progressive talk opportunity, but only WHAV does.
Wave weather!
I'm WHAV meteorologist Gary Best with wave weather. Mostly cloudy skies for the Merrimack Valley during the night. Some light rain or showers developing. Low temperature upper 30s to about 40. During the day Tuesday, periods of rain and only between 40 and 45 degrees. Rain could end as some wet snow Tuesday night. Low temperatures near 32. And then mostly cloudy skies on Wednesday. Could be a shower. High temperatures up near 40. This is Gary Best. Your next wave weather coming up in 30 minutes.
WHAV Open Mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Tim Coco, and this is the Open Mic Show. This hour of the Open Mic is being brought to you by Haverhilll Bank, just one bank. Last week, I was not here. Some of you may know the reason. I don't think it was said on the air. I was being described as under the weather by fill-in host, and frankly, a great host, Mark LeMay, last week right here on the Open Mic Show. But I had 2 wisdom teeth removed. I believe Jerry and Methuen left me a voicemail. I haven't had a chance to catch up on all of these calls, saying, well, as long as it's nothing like having wisdom teeth removed, and that's exactly what it was. So here in my mid-50s, having wisdom teeth, frankly, it was not as bad as I was led to believe. Still some discomfort, but if any of you have had your wisdom teeth out at any age, I imagine you understand. So, I'm back here on the open mic. Let's just go through a few things. It looks like you can listen to WHAV 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at whav.net on your computer or smartphone. It does not appear you can listen to WHAV in the background of Haverhill Community Television Channel 22. Just checked a second ago. Maybe some of you noticed it as well. They're still playing a couple of CDs of beach music. At the time I was told about this, I did not realize that their HCTV's annual meeting had a beach theme, so maybe that's somewhat related. We did ask in one of our news stories if perhaps WHAV's sound was no longer on Channel 22 because of the news coverage generated by the Haverhill City Council about Haverhill Community Television. So I don't know if WHAV is being punished or not. Good news is you may find us soon, if not already, on another cable channel, and when we confirm that, we'll let you know. But, of course, you can listen and watch the Open Mic Show for the next 2 hours on Channel 22, as well as on WHAV.TV. WHAV.TV. There is a video screen. You can watch me. If Nate puts the camera on himself, you can watch the producer of the Open Mic Show, and I'm sure that's just given him a reason to test it. So you can always do that. Audio from WHAV is also on Andover Cable Channel 8, Methuen Channels 8 and 22 on Comcast, Channel 32 on Verizon Fios in Methuen, Plasto Channel 17 and 23, Sandown Channel 17. We have some interesting topics tonight. Let me give out the phone numbers first. Would like to have your participation. Haverhill School Committeeman and attorney Mr. Magliocchetti is going to be on the program tonight. We did not remind him, so I hope he did not forget. But Paul A. Magliocchetti, a member of the Haverhill School Committee, is scheduled to join you and me on the open mic to discuss some unusual circumstances. Let me give you a preview of that. The State Ethics Commission has prohibited a third of the school committee from voting on certain issues and a third of the Haverhill City Council from voting on other issues. Pretty amazing when the Ethics Commission does that much damage to local government. My questions for Paul, and he answered in a news story this week on WHAV, or in the last week, is that did the Ethics Commission overstep its bounds in making these decisions? 2 school committee members have children in the classical academy at Haverhill High School. Therefore, they are not allowed to even be in the room when class rank is being discussed. On the Haverhill City Council, 3 city councilors, Councilors Barrett, Sullivan, and McGonigal, can't vote on parking issues because they have businesses, even if they're on the second floor. In the case of Attorney Sullivan, Councilor Sullivan, they have businesses, so they are prohibited from voting on parking issues. I found that to be very interesting, that city government has been largely gutted. I will tell you that WHAV in the last week has really been an example of democracy in action, and I believe that is the importance of WHAV to all of you and to the community. Because WHAV reported on the parking fee increases proposed for downtown, merchants, restaurant owners, bar owners, even the Haverhill Chamber of Commerce turned out in large numbers, and as a result, the parking ordinance was pulled from the City Council agenda last week. I call that a victory for democracy. I'm not taking a position on the parking fees. They may well be necessary or desirable. I'm taking the issue that we need to have very open discussions of what's happening by our elected officials. And WHAV fulfilled that role, being the only media to present the information last Monday, giving the business community a chance to organize and show up at City Hall. Another issue along those lines, WHAV delved into, and last week Mark LeMay had as a guest Megan Shea, but delved into the whole issue of medical marijuana. Longtime listeners will know that my opinion, and this is not a news program, this is an opinion program, my opinion is that the voters approved medical marijuana. So we should not try to interfere with the voters' intent. I have one caveat, though. I don't think the voters expected a company like Healthy Farms to manipulate the process and have a former state senator, frankly, lie in the community. And I think a number of city officials will back up that statement. We don't need a disclaimer on my opinion. Most people know this is an opinion program. They do not reflect those as sponsors, but Nate doesn't need to remind you at this time. What I will say, though, is, former Senator Jim Jujuga talked to city officials and then told the State Department of Public Health that all of those officials agreed 100% that Healthy Farms should be should have a medical marijuana facility in the city of Haverhill. Nate, we have a graphic of a medical marijuana store in another state. And by the way, we are calling it a store because you can buy all kinds of things there. You can buy food items that have marijuana baked within. So let me say the issue is not what the voters approved. I agree that the voters have the final say. The issue is whether or not Healthy Farms is the appropriate company in light of the shenanigans, the political dirty tricks, and all of that happens. Now, I'm going to tie these two together, medical marijuana and parking, because Haverhilll Mayor James J. Fiorentini is having a survey, and we'll have that address up from time to time. Haverhilll Mayor Fiorentini is having a survey asking specifically about those two issues. So I think WHAV is having the impact one would expect of a good news organization because elected officials are jumping around trying to circumvent the news process, I think. Anyway, you can interact with this program, 978-374-1900, 978-374-1900. If you are shy, you can email me directly at tcoco, T-C-O-C-O, at whav.net. You can also use the message board below the TV screen at whav.tv to communicate. What you cannot do is win a prize by writing. You have to call and talk to me. And there are prizes. This week, WHAV begins accepting May birthdays and anniversaries. So if you know someone who's having a birthday in May or a couple having an anniversary in May, now's the time to call in their names, and they are eligible to win, when we draw at the end of the month, a free 7-inch cake, choice of chocolate or vanilla, from LBD's second-generation Italian bakery, 140 South Main Street in Bradford. I can't tell you how indebted we are to LBD's second-generation Italian bakery. The cake is absolutely free, but it is of the highest quality. If you haven't stopped in just to try some of their goods, whether they're breads, pizza, cookies, mini pastries, or their delicious cakes, you're really missing out. So thank you to LBD's second-generation Italian bakery. We just made Nate move through like 7 graphics to get through this last 2 minutes. We also have and this was kind of on. Let me just talk about the cake one more thing before we go to calls. Maybe it was a good thing I was not on the air last week because Marcel, a frequent listener, had called in the birthday of my Aunt Priscilla a few weeks ago. And wouldn't you know it, my aunt won the cake last Monday. So if I had been here and done the drawing, you guys all would have thought there was some shenanigans going on. Mark drew the name. I swear I had nothing to do with it. So happy birthday to my Aunt Priscilla. All right. We're kind of on the cusp of a break. Nate, can that call wait till the break so that we can give that caller the time he or she deserves? All right, let's go to a break. This hour you're going to hear about this day in Massachusetts history. Then we'll be right back with more of the Open Mic Show.
Open Mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco at whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
This is Phil Christie. When local news breaks, the wave is there. Only local radio can bring you local news, but only WHAV does.
Catch the wave!
The most trusted man in America, news anchor Walter Cronkite, once said, "It is absolutely essential in a democracy to have competition in the media, a lot of competition." That sentiment is one of the driving forces behind WHAV's expanded local news effort. This is News Director Dana Esmel inviting you to listen to my hourly weekday newscasts right here on WHAV. You'll also find the area's most comprehensive local news reporting at WHAV.net on your computer or smartphone. Remember, WHAV is the only Haverhill-based news source, and it's always free.
And that's the way it is.
Today is April 6th. On this day in 1999, Maria Grasso of Boston won what was then the largest payoff to a single individual in an American lottery, $197 million. An immigrant from Chile, Grasso had arrived in the U.S. in 1971, the same year the legislature created the Massachusetts State Lottery. The game, introduced in the 1970s, paid out much more money, but had the same purpose as the lotteries that were popular 2 centuries earlier. In the colonial period, government-run lotteries were a common way to raise money for such projects as rebuilding Faneuil Hall after a fire and paying Massachusetts men who served in the Continental Army. Like colonial lotteries, the modern Massachusetts State Lottery increased state revenue without raising taxes. For more about this and other Mass Moments, go online to massmoments.org. Brought to you by the Massachusetts Foundation for the Humanities.
Music. Catch the wave. WHAV. Open mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco at whav.net.
Welcome back to the Open Mic Show, a 50-year staple of democracy in the Merrimack Valley. We're going to, remind you that this hour of the Open Mic Show is being brought to you by Haverhilll Bank, just one bank. Let's go to the phones. You are on the Open Mic Show.
Just one bank.
Yes, I knew that you were the one holding, so I wanted to arm you with. Can you say the slogan of the Open Mic Show?
Let's see. Open mic.
A 50-year staple of democracy.
50-year staple of democracy.
Okay. Thank you. It's probably getting closer to 60 now. But, welcome, Brian.
Thank you.
You have a birthday entry, did I understand?
I have the first birthday entry for May, and that will be my brother, Paul.
Paul, did I meet Paul at your event? I thought so.
Yeah.
All right. He has a mustache, right?
No, that's me.
You have the mustache. No. I don't know. My memory is not as good as it should be.
He may. I don't know.
Well, actually, yeah. We have you at a disadvantage, don't we?
Well, I was thinking of taking mine off. I haven't decided.
Really? I don't know that we would recognize you without it.
Oh, I don't think many people would even notice.
Really? Oh, well. So, who's our birthday person? Paul.
My brother.
That's right. Maybe I've been using some of the stuff we're talking about tonight. No.
Medical marijuana.
No, I have not. No, okay, but Paul, what I meant to ask was when's his birthday?
15th.
15th of May. All right, I hope you weren't disappointed last week that one of my relatives won.
No, it's all right.
But not not immediate family, and I didn't draw the name, and I didn't put it in. Marcel, thank you from my aunt. So
maybe she'll have you over for a slice, eh?
Yeah, actually, that's because what I always advise listeners to do.
Yep.
Invite give it to someone so that you get a piece. So I don't know, maybe I'll be invited over.
Maybe so.
All right. So while I have you on the phone, I don't know how easy it is for you to take surveys online, but did you see the mayor's, quote, an anonymous survey of community opinions, April 2015?
I'm afraid I've been offline. My computer is no longer functioning.
Oh, well, maybe we have to work on that. You probably have higher priorities than that.
Oh, well, that's a pretty high one. That's one of the things that connects me to the outside world. and I need a new machine. There's no question about it. And I got that crypto locker virus.
Oh, really?
All of my files are encrypted.
Oh, so this is that thing that says if you don't pay us money, you'll never see your files again?
Yeah, well, I never got a ransom note or anything, but...
Oh, you just got locked up.
That's it. And I was embarking on looking into a new computer anyway, and so now it's a must.
I know, but what about those files? Anything there that you really wanted to keep?
Yeah.
There's no one who can help you with that?
Well, I'll have to call around, but most everybody I've spoken to said, no, just forget it. They're gonzo.
Well, folks, at Brian's expense, there's a lesson for you. Be careful. Brian has a pretty good excuse. He probably didn't see any warnings, right?
Well, I don't download just anything either. And I went, back on the 21st. It was the same day as the fundraiser. I wanted to get on Facebook before I left, and I just couldn't do it. The night before, I was on just fine.
Oh, so it all happened that day?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, isn't that amazing?
Yep.
Well, that's pretty tragic. I don't know what I would do if I lost access to my files. In this day and age, although I print out some papers for this show, normally they never see any ink on them. They're stuck in the computer.
You need to just back up everything all the time. I'm going to get an external hard drive in addition to a new computer because, well, I've got a collection of obituaries that I saved. I have passwords.
Oh, I print out some paper.
Well, they're not printed out, but...
Wow. Funny, my computer...
Put them on a backup drive or something.
It was kind of funny. We're talking about computers, and all of a sudden mine started talking over the controls here. But anyway, we stopped that. It might very well be. Well, I guess you're a good example though of even if it's temporarily offline, the mayor's survey is not available to a good portion of this community that either. Perhaps is not of the generation, that's a polite way of saying it, not of the generation that uses computers.
Uh-huh.
So I would say, most of our, not all, I'm sure a lot of elderly and senior citizens do have computers, but quite a few might not have access to the mayor's survey.
That's right. Yeah, a lot of them aren't into that. What do we call that, elitist or...
Well, I don't know exactly. I'm not going to necessarily, but...
Well, I don't know, but yeah, I know several people, not necessarily elderly, who are not online and will not take any surveys. Will not complete any, I mean.
Well, it's interesting, this survey. Again, I find it kind of interesting that the mayor's survey relates to two items that WHAV News broke last week and over the last 2 weeks exclusively. And these are two items that I guess have bothered the mayor. One, there, as you heard last week on this program, there are people who want to stop the medical marijuana facility. And the mayor actually kind of hints in his survey, it's funny, if a facility is located here, they would bring up to $500,000 a year and 50 jobs to our city. The $500,000 a year could be used to add more police, add drug treatment counselors, or more. So now we have actually officially the 500,000 number that had been rumored in a host agreement. Mm-hmm. So it's funny when the mayor did do arguments for and against in his survey, but he's providing some information that could influence the results of the survey by mentioning the 500,000.
Well, the city solicitor, quite some time ago, now it's been a while, and if I understood him correctly, he says, we can't just ignore this, it's going to happen one way or the other.
No, actually, there's some, and I think I said that at the beginning of the program. Voters approved this. I believe the voters' decision is sacred. The voters made a decision, and they passed this in Haverhilll by 63 or 64% in favor. But I think what is okay to scrutinize is the particular winner of this medical marijuana facility. I think the process was shady to begin with, about a former state senator running around talking to people and then telling the State Department of Public Health that those people were supportive of the when they weren't. And you know, there are a lot of people, and matter of fact, it's kind of funny because some of the older residents of the city were the young residents of the city in the 1960s. So there's not as much of a generational divide on this as there was. So I think the voters knew what they were doing when they approved medical marijuana. That's but I think the issue is whether someone's hand should be slapped. More than the $2,500 that Dujugo was fined, but some hands should be slapped about the process here.
Right.
You know, so from what I'm hearing, so you disagree with attempts to stop the concept of a medical marijuana store.
Well, you know, it's kind of complicated in that something that Councilor Sullivan had pointed out, that you know, it's medical, but yet, you know, we're having to go through all this just because it's marijuana. Now, you know, if you're going to regulate it, if you're going to choose a location, you know, and that's the kind of thing. I think that's what Solicitor Cox was talking about, and said, you know, you may not have a choice if you don't, you know, do something.
Yeah, I have to say, I agree with you entirely. I think Councilor Sullivan's remarks at the city council meeting were the best of anyone's. And he said that if it weren't for the federal government, we would be buying this kind of thing at a CVS or a Walgreens. And doing it that way. But because the federal government has classified this in such a way, and we're not absolutely certain that the feds won't actually prosecute someone for buying at a medical marijuana store.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, federally, you know, you have laws to look at, and on a state and municipal level.
All right, I see Nate. Brian, you're probably lucky that you can't see this, but Nate has brought the camera so close that I look like a basketball. Yeah, maybe just zoom out a little bit so that
Spalding or Wilson?
Oh yes, yeah. I don't know, but in any event, he's zooming it back out. But I found it interesting that the mayor took to doing a survey over this and the parking issue. And again, I have to say, if you heard me earlier, and I'll repeat it for those who didn't hear it, democracy is served by media. Because if a person does not know of an issue before government, they may not act, or they may not vote a certain way. They may not participate. And last week, no one in the world knew, before WHAV told them, that the city council was being asked to vote on parking fee increases downtown.
Right.
And it was because WHAV told the story, without opinion, I might add, just saying that this was going before council. Suddenly we saw a big part of the downtown show up at city council or call the mayor or councilors. We had the Chamber of Commerce. I understand Gene Poth was out in the hallway berating a certain city official over some of this. So democracy was served by the media, and frankly, if we don't have media like WHAV to toot our own horns over here, democracy is lost here.
Yeah, well, it's important.
So, and the same thing with medical marijuana. I mean, we're just telling. I have to say, Mark did an amazing job last week of being devil's advocate. You know, asking Megan, well, isn't this kind of late? Isn't this the 11th hour? So I think WHAV has been very fair in presenting this issue. Let's see how it plays out.
Yeah.
So see how that goes. Hey, did you want to take another shot at our trivia question?
Oh, Oh, no, I can't even research anything online.
Oh, that's
You're
right.
talking about the two locations in New Hampshire.
Right.
No.
I mean, Marcel has 3 of the 4, whether she fully realizes it or not.
Give it to Marcel.
So
She's another one who, well, wait a minute, maybe she does get online sometimes. I don't know.
I think she has done some research
Yeah,
online.
yeah.
Now, actually, while you're on the phone here, because Jerry, another one of our regular listeners, sent 2 tickets here, and he's supposed to win things, and he sent 2 tickets here for the Methuen Police Patrolmen's Association Comedy Night at the Andover Wyndham Hotel, Thursday, May 21st. And I'm going to ask Jerry, on the air, was this a prize he wanted us to give away, or did he want some people here from the staff to go? So I'm, being...
Well, he'll probably call in.
He probably will, because I find that when I mention names, when I mention Lieutenant now, you call, right? So,
Yeah.
so we'll see how that goes. Well, I appreciate your calling in, kicking off the May birthday season.
And I wanted you to know about an interesting experience that I had, too, though.
Oh, what's that?
Well, a friend of mine, used to be a neighbor, actually treated me to a session with a psychic medium. And this particular medium was able to, not channel exactly, but was able to, reveal information. He was telling me things that he couldn't have known, and was able to actually communicate with my deceased wife.
Really?
I thought it was very interesting.
So you're convinced that this was not just a coincidence, that
Well,
this...
I'm not a skeptic. I'm kind of skeptic, initially, but it wasn't costing me anything. And he came over and he was very nice, and he said things that he couldn't have known.
It's been suggested, I think Mark LeMay was the last person to suggest it. It's been suggested that we have a psychic on WHAV during one of these open mic shows because, and I know in the past, I think Bill Pike did it on the open mic. They're very, very popular.
And how do you filter through the ones that are legitimate and the ones that are just,
I'm glad you asked, since you have found one that you think is legitimate.
Well, he's not a psychic, though. He's a medium. That's very specific to people with,
oh, I see.
with deceased, as opposed to, say, other kinds of psychics with precognition or maybe other specialties. Because I know online, first thing they do is try to sell you little trinkets and things.
Oh, you know what? Okay, so we're going to throw this out to listeners. If you know of a good psychic, maybe one you've even heard on radio or television, let us know, and we'll see about having a psychic on the program. I have to tell you, Brian, I am a very big skeptic. So
yeah, sure. Well, I think most people are, and I'm thinking that you're really going to get flooded with calls.
No, but that's a good reason to do it now, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Brian. Wish your brother Paul a happy birthday from us, and we will be going to news now, and you're certainly welcome to call back later.
Okay. We'll say hi to Rebecca Foster.
Oh, that's right.
And Paul Magliocchetti.
Yeah, let's. I have to send Nate out to the lobby to see if Paul is actually here waiting. I hope he didn't forget.
Hope not.
All right, so thank you very much.
Okay,
Take
Tim.
care, Brian.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Bye-bye.
All right, so we're going to go to local news with WHAV News Director Dana Esmel. National news, probably by Rebecca Foster at FSN. And local weather, we'll be back with more of the Open Mic Show, and I hope School Committeeman Magliocchetti is with us. We'll be back then.
Open Mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
It's 7:05.
WHAV Merrimack Valley. WHAV is a not-for-profit service of Public Media of New England Incorporated. It's heard on 1640 AM, the web, at whav.net, and participating cable television stations.
Here's what's happening in local news. A failed request by the owner of an automotive service business on East Broadway near Groveland Street to also operate a 10-vehicle used car lot on the site may have found new life under a revised plan. In a repetitive petition, Devin Tucker, doing business as Ideal Service Center, is now requesting a special permit from the Haverhill City Council to allow a maximum 2 vehicles for sale at the business, 79 East Broadway. They would be stored behind privacy gates, according to Tucker. On March 24, City Councilors rejected the original 10-vehicle used car sales lot plan after neighbors and other community members voiced concerns about potential impacts to the neighborhood, including parking spaces and traffic and safety issues for pedestrians. A revised motion by Councilor William J. Masick to limit 4 vehicles within a rear enclosure fell 1 vote short of a required 2/3 majority. The new plan will be referred to the Haverhill Planning Board, which previously approved the 10-vehicle proposal. The City Council is expected to schedule a public hearing on June 2nd for the new plan. Also on the Council agenda, Councilor Melinda Barrett has requested discussions over increased traffic issues on Laurel Avenue, including speeding and MVRTA bus access to its garage facility. The Haverhill City Council meets at 7 p.m. Tuesday in Council Chambers at Haverhill City Hall. 2 people are due to be arraigned in Haverhill District Court Monday on stolen vehicle and drug-related charges after being found Saturday morning inside a car reported stolen in Boston's West Roxbury neighborhood. However, a dog also reported missing was not inside. Haverhill police arrested the car's 2 occupants following the 6:50 a.m. Saturday call from an unidentified resident, said Detective Captain Robert P. Pistone. The resident recognized the gray 2011 Subaru Outback with a Massachusetts registration after seeing the report on a Boston television channel. The car, owned by a professional dog walker, was parked on Pecker Street. Police arrested Matthew Bradley, 23, listed as homeless, and Christina Cosgrove, 19, of Dedham. Both were charged with receiving a stolen motor vehicle. Bradley was also charged with possession of Class A and B substances with intent to distribute. Cosgrove was also charged with possession of a Class D substance with intent to distribute and receiving stolen property, checks. Both were booked at the Haverhill Police Station and held without bail pending their court arraignment. 2 Haverhill residents faced drunk driving charges as a result of an auto accident investigation by police Saturday night. According to Haverhill Police, Diane Buchikos, 64, and Yale Garrett, 56, both of Haverhill, were arrested between 8:15 and 8:20 p.m. Saturday at 64 Crowell Street. Each is charged with operating a motor vehicle under the influence of liquor and leaving the scene of an accident with property damage. Buchikos was additionally charged with a marked lanes violation. Mass Development has hired a Transformative Development Initiative Fellow to work in Haverhill to advance local redevelopment visions for Haverhill's district in development. Noah Koretz previously served as the director of the North Suburban Consortium at the Malden Redevelopment Authority, where he managed federal home-funded affordable housing investment in 8 communities, including several gateway cities. He formerly practiced commercial and real estate law in Boston. In Haverhill, he will help to revitalize the city's Merrimack Street Transformative District. TDI fellows who have experience in city planning, community partnership building, real estate, and economic development work in host districts for 3 years in collaboration with local partnerships. For more in-depth coverage, visit whav.net. In local high school sports, girls softball and lacrosse on tap for the Haverhill Hillies on Monday. For more schedule details, visit whav.net. Remember, WHAV is the only Haverhill-based news source, and it's always free. In the Edwin V. Johnson newsroom, this is Dana Esmel.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Rebecca Foster. Kenya has bombed areas inside Somalia, targeting Islamist militant group Al-Shabaab, responsible for last week's attack on a Kenyan university that left nearly 150 people dead. Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta had vowed to respond in the severest way possible. The airstrikes have destroyed 2 Al-Shabaab camps, according to Kenyan military officials. Gary Alfonso reports.
Kenyan warplanes have bombed camps inside Somalia, which they believe Al-Shabaab terrorists use to plan attacks and cross into Kenya. 5 people with possible links to the massacre of students at the Garissa University College have been arrested in Kenya. One of the 4 extremists who died in the attack has been identified as the son of a Kenyan government official.
The Obama administration says it has not yet agreed on a timetable to lift sanctions on Iran as part of the P5+1 agreement on Tehran's nuclear program. Last week, it was announced the parties had reached the framework to begin drafting a deal, wherein Iran would greatly reduce its nuclear program in exchange for a lifting of EU and U.S. sanctions. Iranian representatives have said they expect all sanctions to be lifted when the deal is signed. But the Obama administration says they want to phase out sanctions slowly in order to keep pressure on Iran and until they see proof Iran is following through on the terms of the deal. White House spokesperson Josh Earnest said the timetable will be negotiated in coming months.
It is the strong view of the administration that it would not be wise and it would not be in the interest of the international community to simply take away all of the sanctions on day one. It is our view that, based on Iran's history, that it would be most conducive to the success of the agreement for Iran to continue to have an incentive for complying with the agreement.
Closing arguments are underway in the case against alleged Boston Marathon bomber Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, who is charged with killing 3 people and wounding more than 260 others in the worst terrorist attack on U.S. soil since 9/11. This is the last step before the jury begins deliberations to decide if the state proves Tsarnaev's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Patrice Howard reports from Boston.
Marathon bombing victims, their families, and friends watched intently from the gallery as prosecutor Alok Chakravarty used his closing statement to characterize the alleged bomber Dzhokhar Tsarnaev as a bloodthirsty killer. Chakravarty said the evidence speaks for itself, showing the jury the most graphic photos and videos from that marathon Monday. A guilty verdict seems likely to return for most of the 30 charges against Tsarnaev, whose lawyer confirmed his involvement in the attacks on day 1 of the trial.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Wave weather.
I'm WHAV meteorologist Gary Best with wave weather. Mostly cloudy skies for the Merrimack Valley during the night. Some light rain or showers developing. Low temperature upper 30s to about 40. During the day Tuesday, periods of rain and only between 40 and 45 degrees. Rain could end as some wet snow Tuesday night. Low temperatures near 32. And then mostly cloudy skies on Wednesday. Could be a shower. High temperatures up near 40. This is Gary Best. Your next wave weather coming up in 30 minutes.
This is Pacifica Radio for the Merrimack Valley, WHAV.
Catch the wave. WHAV. Merrimack Valley. Open mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco at whav.net.
Welcome back to the Open Mic Show, a 50-year staple of democracy in the Merrimack Valley. This hour of the Open Mic is being brought to you by Haverhilll Bank, just one bank. To my left, Haverhilll School Committee man. Is that still the term people use? Is a school committee person? School committee member?
Anything works.
All right. Nate, could you bring that camera up a little bit and a little bit closer and less of my stomach? Paul doesn't have that problem, but all right. So Paul Magliocchetti, a local attorney, member of the school committee, and the reason I wanted Paul to come on the program, as I told the listeners earlier, I found it kind of odd that the State Ethics Commission says a third of our school committee can't look at a certain issue. In fact, apparently they can't even be in the same room. And a third of our city council can't vote on parking. And I wondered if the Ethics Commission exceeded their boundaries. I do not know how much Paul was willing to say about that. But Paul isn't involved, and correct me in anything that I have wrong here, Paul, in this intro, but I went to the Haverhilll School Committee meeting myself, and frankly, I was there to cover the union petition, and stayed around as good news people I think should. And the first thing I saw was, I guess there's a section of the school committee for public participation. Is that right?
Yes, there is. At the beginning of every meeting, we invite the public to participate and raise any issues they might have.
All right. I don't remember that happening when I was a reporter, 30 years ago, but I thought it was an interesting concept. So then I saw Pam Conti speak, and she had some charts, and school committeeman Magliocchetti and Tui said, if we're going to discuss weighting, I think is the term, or
yes,
was it ranking?
The weighting of grades.
Then we have to leave the room. I mean, they can't just sit in the audience or just sit where they are and keep quiet. And I thought...
Well, actually, we could sit in the audience.
Oh, you could?
Yes, but we're limited with the way we can participate, and we can't participate as school committee members, and we cannot vote on the issue. But just the way the Ethics Commission handles these kinds of issues, and I was having a conversation with City Solicitor Bill Cox about this earlier tonight, is they have all these tangential relationships that are 2, 3, and 4 times removed from the issue at hand. But if there's any kind of a potential financial interest for you and your family, you have to recuse yourself.
Now, what I found interesting about that, and I know there's some issues you won't be able to discuss, so I'm sure you'll cut me off if necessary. But what I found interesting, particularly interesting about that comment, is that on one hand, and again, I'm not taking any particular side in this. I don't think I'm as informed as I might be on this subject, so I'm not taking any particular position. But I did find it kind of a juxtaposition of the school administration says, in fact, weighting and ranking doesn't have all that much impact on acceptance at a college or university. And yet, on the other hand, correct me if I'm wrong, the Ethics Commission is saying, in fact, it has so much of an impact, it might cost you money or save you money, therefore you can't vote on this.
Exactly. That struck me as well, and we talked a little bit about that. So actually, I had a phone conversation with the Ethics Commission earlier today following up on that very issue, and what I said to the attorney for the Ethics Commission is the reason that the Ethics Commission said I had a conflict was because my decision on this matter would affect my daughter's class rank. And her class rank would then affect which college she got into and also what scholarships she qualified for. At the last school committee meeting, our superintendent of schools stated that class rank has nothing to do with what college you get into and has no bearing on scholarships. So when I called the Ethics Commission today, I said, the superintendent of schools, and in fact, I believe that the director of guidance at the high school has been saying the same thing to students, is saying that class rank has no bearing on these issues. Therefore, I have no financial interest, and therefore I don't have a conflict. And the attorney for the Ethics Commission asked me if I thought that the superintendent's position was reasonable. And my comment was, well, he's the superintendent of schools, he's the authority. And she says,
that doesn't mean, awkward position,
that doesn't mean it's reasonable. And I said, well, I have to abide by what he says. He is so.
So you're caught between two state laws, ed reform,
yes,
and the ethics law,
yes.
And apparently, there's no happy medium.
It's you talk to these ethics attorneys, and they err so far on the side of caution. But another point that a parent made the other night when you were there at the meeting, and I thought it was important here, was that they want parents of students to run for the school committee for this reason, because then you're aware of these issues and you participate in the dialogue. And now the Ethics Commission is saying, well, if you're an involved parent, you can't even participate in the dialogue.
I would guess, and listeners, you can tell me if I'm wrong, I would guess that quite a few voters actually vote for certain candidates because they're parents and have an understanding of what's really going on day to day in the schools. Now, I can think of maybe one exception years ago. Mr. Mitchison, whose first name escapes me, but the city council president's father, thought there should always be a taxpayer advocate there, someone without students, so that there was some balance between we got to give the kids everything versus we ought to not give the kids anything because that's going to raise our taxes. What was his name? Arthur?
I believe so, yeah.
And so it's an interesting, but I do think a lot of voters do choose a parent because they figure here's someone who will have the better understanding of what current things are. The other observation I would make is that maybe I was just too dumb when I was in high school, but I remember the honor roll and distinction, and I made distinction not as much as I made honor roll, but I don't remember there being any discussion of ranking and weighting. Weighting certainly because there was no early college then, but I don't remember any discussion of ranking. So was I just out of the loop 35 years ago?
I think you were, because you're not that much. We're about the same age, and
you were aware of it.
I was aware of it. I was in the top 20, I think, in my class. I think the top kids are always aware of it.
Okay, folks, that tells you it all. I wasn't one of the top kids, apparently.
No, I think that look, I think that over the years people were aware of the class ranking, but I never was aware of how they determined it. I just figured it was based on the grades that you got in your classes. I didn't understand the whole weighting issue or anything like that.
All right, we have to take a break, but here's something I'll ask you now to think about for when we come back from the break. There have been some comments on WHAV's original story and follow-up on Facebook, and one of those comments, at least one, was from a parent saying that the kids are now arguing among themselves and that is not a good thing. And I'll ask you to address that. When we come back, we're going to hear a community spotlight, and then we'll be back with school committee man and local attorney Paul A. We like middle initials here, Magliocchetti.
Open mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
Phil Christie here. Last year, WHAV helped local nonprofits by airing 8,780 community spotlight messages. Only local radio can bring you this level of public service, but only WHAV does.
Community Spotlight is brought to you by Haverhilll Bank. Haverhilll Bank is a generous supporter of the area's civic and cultural programs.
That's all it takes, it's just one bank. Haverhilll Bank. Community Spotlight.
New York Times bestselling author Tom Perrotta answers questions and signs copies of his book, The Leftovers, during Haverhill Public Library's Haverhill Reads finale. It takes place from 7 to 8:45 p.m. on Thursday, April 23rd in the library's auditorium. Register online at www.haverhillpl.org under Calendar of Events or call 978-373-1586. Someone you know is on WHAV. To submit or read your own nonprofit announcements, click on the Contact tab at WHAV.net or email news@WHAV.net. In the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, this is Alyssa Torres.
WHAV Open Mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
25 minutes past the hour on the Open Mic Show. This hour of the Open Mic is being brought to you by Haverhilll Bank. Just one bank. All right, when we last left our hero, Mr. Magliocchetti, we had asked what he thought of this situation. We had at least one parent saying that the change of rankings, and correct me if I've got any of the terminology wrong. Some students last year were ranking, at, let's say, above 20% or above 5% of their class. And then after early college rankings were included, some of those students fell dramatically in the ranking. Do I have that?
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
All right. And as a result...
And others climbed. There was a shift.
That's right. So some went up, some went down, and the students apparently... for the last 35 years, they've been aware of this. I wasn't. They recognize where they were and where they are. And there's been a little bit of controversy there, and one parent complained that this controversy is beginning to affect relationships between the kids in the high school. So I wanted to ask you, I did ask, is there a better way to present this argument, or is this just collateral damage?
Well, this actually is how I was contacted, was by a parent who was very upset because of what was going on with her student and other peers in the school, and how, the situation was being dealt with at the high school, because the students saw their rankings change, because it's all online on Naviance. And
another thing I just learned, folks, what is the site?
It's Naviance. It's a site that parents and students can check grades and class rank and everything that's going on with the student in the school. It's all
I swear they didn't have a website when I was
They
a
did
senior.
not. That's new. That's new.
Okay.
But that's where they saw these shifts happening. So, and these students are very in tune with what's going on, as are their parents. So I was communicated to me about these problems, and I communicated it to the superintendent's office, and I told the parents to go talk to the principal and the guidance counselors about this issue, try to get clarification.
Oh, so you're
That's
saying
how this started.
so you're saying that was already happening.
That was already happening when I was.
So it's not something because you raised it, it's happening.
No, that's why I got involved, was to help with the problem.
All right. So the way I understand it, there's another issue as well. And there's some conflicting views on this, so we'll ask our guest. But when the early college program was introduced at the high school, this is something where, again, correct me if I have any of the details wrong, a student can take college-level classes while at Haverhilll High School, and essentially, if they do it all, can take 2 years off what they need to complete in college. Is that right?
I don't know if it's 2 years. They get up to 27 credits.
Okay, up to 27 college credits.
But the credits are only applicable at state schools and some private schools, but we're not clear what those private schools are. They're not accepted everywhere.
All right. So, well, that's actually true. I hate to say it. I went to Northern Essex Community College, and then when I went to a four-year school, quite a few credits from Northern Essex were not accepted.
That's across the board, absolutely.
So quite a few credits weren't accepted from a community college, and it wasn't a horrible burden to take some classes over and that kind of thing. But so my understanding, though, is that when the early college program was conceived, it was aimed at and this is going to be a political correctness problem with the next part of this. It was aimed at students who were not believed to be college-bound necessarily. How's that?
That is the way that the initial program was drafted between the original agreement between Haverhill High School and Northern Essex Community College. It was drafted for the 2011 school year. That is the wording that it was used. It was supposed to be a program to make sure that students after graduation were either work ready or college ready. And there were certain students that had the capacity to go to college, but for whatever reason, either the home life or just for the drive or whatever, just the administration or the teachers didn't feel like they would go on. They would probably just end high school and then go work for minimum wage somewhere. So the program was designed to keep them going. However, somewhere along the road, that changed, which is fine, and that's great. Now the way it's presented to us, it's actually part of the honors program at the high school, which again is a good thing.
Well, let me just interrupt for a second. So, but originally, as conceived, a student in advanced placement was not originally eligible.
That's right.
And so an advanced placement student kind of suffered this kind of double whammy. They're not eligible for these credits that might change their ranking, but...
I can't get into this issue.
All right. So I'll just tell the listeners. So they may not be eligible, but unfortunately the advanced placement student who was denied the early college, at least originally, it looks like that has changed, didn't have that benefit. So, okay, back to what you can answer.
Well, what I can say is that the program of studies, which is what, if you're an 8th grader going to Haverhill High School and you want looking into programs, you'll read the program of studies. In the program of studies, the language was just changed at the last school committee meeting. And the old language said for the middle of the road, the middle students, it was geared towards the middle students. It actually said it right in there. And that language has been changed now to reflect that it's a more rigorous program.
Well, I read that language, this is why I was somewhat understanding of this.
Yeah.
But now, okay, when you say that happened at the last meeting, when it was simply announced, or you couldn't vote on it, right? That's an administrative.
Well, what happened was we vote on the program of studies every year.
Oh, you do vote on that?
We vote on the program.
I'm actually a little bit lost with ed reform because in the old days, school committee did just about everything, and the superintendent had to follow orders or else.
No, now it's the other way around. Yeah, that's all changed.
By the way, I just want to do a shout out to Superintendent Jim Scully. At any time, you're welcome to come onto the program and either help illuminate us or rebut anything you hear. This is we try to be fair.
I'm not saying anything against Jim Scully.
That's right. Now, what I did find interesting, though, is that, and maybe the timing wasn't right, but the superintendent did not actually respond to any of those parents at the meeting. How do you interpret that? Is that the issue is set in stone, or, well, we're not ready to talk about it?
Well, Mr. Scully took the position that grade weighting is his decision to make. He made his decision, and the parents had their say, but there was nothing to discuss really because he wasn't going to change his mind, and that's fine. That's his, prerogative as to what to do. But it is our job to hold him accountable and to evaluate his performance. So that's, I guess, the next cog in the wheel, if you will. But to get back to what you were talking about earlier about the situation at the high school, like I said, that's how this all started. And really, this problem, I feel, could have been handled much differently at the very beginning with notice. I know, my daughter's still a junior, so she's not a senior, so this whole ranking and that, it's not really in our focus right now. But with these seniors that are waiting on decisions from colleges and on scholarships, they're watching this stuff all the time. Every report card, they're looking at this stuff. I don't understand. They knew they were making this change to the system, and they knew what the effect was going to be. They send out an alert now for everything. Once a week we get them from the high school. Why wasn't notice given to the parents that this was going to be happening, and And why wasn't the ranking taken down from Naviance while it was happening, so that they wouldn't see the numbers bouncing around as the changes were made? This, to me, is part of the problem. And the sad thing is, like you said, is the students are discussing it amongst themselves. But at the same time, I think it's a good exercise in democracy. I think that the students should be allowed to have a civil dialogue. I mean, it shouldn't get nasty. It shouldn't amount to bullying, and I don't condone that. And I think they have to be very sensitive to what's going on with social media. But another thing that I've heard is happening that bothers me is that students are being called down to the principal's office and being told to delete tweets. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I'm being told that by different parents. But, you know, that now crosses into First Amendment issues. But that just goes to show the effect that this issue is having. That's why I said at the first meeting, for all the years that I've been on the school committee, this is one of the most serious issues that we've had to deal with. And I think if you look at the past month, what we've been going through, just trying to figure this out, sort this out, and all the issues that have been going on, and, you know, students being told they have to delete tweets and things like this. I mean, this shows how serious a matter this really is.
Well, something we have to take a break. Are you willing to stay a little bit longer than normal for this? I'll tell you what, we'll come back. Let's go to local weather, local meteorologists right here at WHAV to bring you the most accurate weather forecasts. And we'll be back with Paul Magliocchetti, Haverhilll School Committee member, after this.
Open mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
It's 7:36.
This is listener-supported community radio, WHAV. WHAV is the Merrimack Valley Pacifica affiliate.
Catch the wave!
The most trusted man in America, news anchor Walter Cronkite, once said, "It is absolutely essential in a democracy to have competition in the media, a lot of competition." That sentiment is one of the driving forces behind WHAV's expanded local news effort. This is News Director Dana Esmel inviting you to listen to my hourly weekday newscasts right here on WHAV. You'll also find the area's most comprehensive local news reporting at whav.net on your computer or smartphone. Remember, WHAV is the only Haverhill-based news source, and it's always free.
And that's the way it is.
Wave weather!
I'm WHAV meteorologist Gary Best with wave weather. Mostly cloudy skies for the Merrimack Valley during the night. Some light rain or showers developing. Low temperature upper 30s to about 40. During the day Tuesday, periods of rain and only between 40 and 45 degrees. Rain could end as some wet snow Tuesday night. Low temperatures near 32. And then mostly cloudy skies on Wednesday. Could be a shower. High temperatures up near 40. This is Gary Best. Your next wave weather coming up in 30 minutes.
Some gold favorites, the most music. WHAV Open Mic.
From the Edwin B. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
Welcome back to the Open Mic Show. This hour is being brought to you by the Merrimack Valley Economic Development Council. Smart companies choose the Merrimack Valley. Have you visited merrimackvalley.info?
I believe I have, yeah.
Yeah, because there's a great newsletter there called Merrimack Valley Happenings, and if you download it, you'll find just about every event from Lowell to Newburyport and in between of whether it's school class plays to big entertainment at the Blue Ocean Music Hall and what have you. It's really anything, any budget is accommodated with a list of things that are going on.
With all the boards and civic organizations I'm involved with, I get emails from all these groups.
So you already
a lot
have,
of them are very informative, yeah.
So you get a lot of these things.
Yeah.
By the way, we offer this to guests. We're taking May birthdays and anniversary wishes tonight, and we're putting the recipients, potential recipients' names into a hat for drawing for a free 7-inch cake from LBD's second-generation Italian bakery. Do you know anyone having a birthday or an anniversary in May that you want to enter into our contest?
My father's birthday is May 8th. He'll be turning 79.
All right. What's your father's first name?
Angelo.
Of course. My father was Joseph.
Happy birthday, Dad.
All right, so Angelo Magliocchetti is being entered into the birthday contest for a free cake from LBD's second-generation Italian bakery. Happy birthday. All right, just to continue our discussion. Well, I mean, let's back up quite a bit. How long have you been on the school committee?
This is my 6th year.
Your 6th year. What's that, 3 terms?
2 terms. My 2nd term.
Okay.
4-year terms.
Oh, 4-year terms. All right, so that's right. What motivated you to run for school committee?
A concerned parent. Before I ran, that's when we had a lot of the budget crisis issues. And also at the time, the school committee was considered quote-unquote dysfunctional. If you remember, there was a lot of infighting among the members. There was animosity between the administration and the school committee. It was just, and when you have children in the schools, it's not right.
So you go back to Raleigh Buchanan as superintendent?
Yes, yeah.
All right. I have to say, this is an opinion program, and I'm going to state my opinion, and I'll even back up why, and it's a selfish reason, so I'll tell you that. But I couldn't be happier that Raleigh Buchanan is gone, and I'm very pleased with, I believe, the openness and participation by Superintendent Jim Scully. I actually was watching the Education Channel this weekend, and I saw him reading to children. Maybe superintendents have done that in the past, but I found it refreshing to see that activity. With Raleigh Buchanan, just in case you're not fully aware, but I bet you are, back in 2007, WHAV was seeking a radio station license, just like we received this year, and we were begged not to seek it because the high school wanted the station, and that one of your colleagues, Joe Bevilacqua, set up a meeting with myself, Mayor Fiorentini, Raleigh Buchanan, the principal of the high school. We met in the school administration offices, and I was begged not to file a competing application. I warned them at the time that the FCC is unforgiving. The application has to be done correctly, it has to be filed on time, has to be filed electronically. I was pretty much poo-pooed by the school administration in 2007 saying, mind your own business, please don't compete with us. They missed the deadline. And the station went to Londonderry, New Hampshire. So this time around, I have to say I was pretty brazen that no matter what anyone else did, we were filing. And we fought a very big battle with another applicant and ultimately arranged a settlement so that both of us could get on the air, the Catholic Church in Greater Lawrence. And, of course, WHAV is scheduled, we've been licensed to go on the air at 97.9 FM, which was a engineering miracle because there are no frequencies available. We had to get a waiver to do this, all because of Superintendent Raleigh Buchanan missing a deadline. Maybe
Can't say I'm too surprised about that.
So maybe that's why he's not there now, not because of us specifically, but because of that. So thank you for not filing a competing application against
you're very welcome.
WHAV. All right, so and you found voters like the idea that you're a parent and are involved with the students.
I believe so, yes. I think that's one of the appeals that I have. I'm also a very outspoken member of the school committee, and I just try to do the right thing. I always have.
Now, one other thing I have to say, and I mean this in all sincerity, I saw I don't know, should I call you Paul or Attorney Magliocchetti or
Paul's fine.
School. I saw him at a city council subcommittee meeting that was discussing Haverhill Community Television, and I could have sworn he was becoming Haverhill City Solicitor, because he was pouring out all of these facts about public access television, and you were just rolling off with the facts and figures. Unfortunately, that meeting wasn't on television because Haverhill Community Television hasn't wired that room for television. And I understand that you are is this the correct term, a candidate for the board of Haverhill Community Television?
Yes, I guess years ago, the Haverhill Community Media, as it's called now, they had a appointee from the city, appointee from the school department, from the Haverhill Public Library, and from Northern Essex Community College. At some point over the past 4 or 5 years, the positions went unfilled, and the television station did away with the positions, and now they're supposedly working on amending the bylaws to reintroduce them. And I was the person appointed by my fellow school committee members to be the school representative on HC Media.
So the school committee actually took a vote to do this?
Yes, they took a vote.
All right, so it was a formal vote to have you as the representative, and again, at this city council subcommittee meeting, Paul seemed to know about every rule, regulation that affected public access television. Have you looked at the contract between
Yes.
Haverhill Community Television and, is it with the city or with Comcast?
Well, the way it works is it's between the city and Comcast. And the way the federal regulations work, there has to be an independent entity that works as a pass-through. But the city controls the funds, and it controls how much goes to the HC Media and how much the city keeps in its general fund, because the fees are actually a tax upon every cable subscriber. So if you're a Comcast subscriber, if you look on your bill, you'll see there'll be a franchise fee or a franchise tax on the bottom of the bill. It's about a couple of dollars a month. And that money is for Comcast paying the city for use of the right-of-way to run those cable lines over the sides of the streets and sidewalks of the city of Haverhill. And that amount...
See what I mean, listeners?
And that amounts to about $800,000 a year.
Let me ask you this. If you were on the school committee, and I don't know if the school committee even has this authority anymore under ed reform, but you have $800,000 to give away to a vendor, a contractor, who knows, maybe they're the people fixing the bricks at the high school. So you have $800,000. Would you ever give that money away without soliciting competitive bids?
I don't know where you're going with this, but but no, absolutely not. I mean, I think...
Well, why is it that Haverhill Community Television, there was no request for proposals from any other entity
for what?
To provide these services to the city of Haverhill?
That's an interesting question. All I know is HC Media has been the entity from the beginning, and
Randy Buchini might dispute that.
Maybe they'll be challenged. Maybe there'll be a Haverhill Broadcasting Company being formed.
Well, no, the reason I say that is because it has come up time and time again with listeners calling and asking, you mean they just handed $800,000 without a request for proposals over to a private group?
Well, it's not that simple. First of all, you have to be a group that's set up to do it, and that's meets certain guidelines. You have to comply with all the federal regulations. So you can't just start a company and say, I want the money to run a TV station. You have to show that you can do it. You don't want to throw the money away.
No, absolutely. And now, it's just a question. I will tell you that I have checked with the Ethics Commission, and it's perfectly legal because a city can give away money to a nonprofit if it's in the public interest. I think 30B is deeply flawed there because that means that you could conceivably give money away to any group without a bid.
Well, it's not really giving money away, though, because the federal regulations say that it has to go to an entity like this. Because the purpose of the fee is to educate the public on on programming. So in other words, if you and I, just average guys on the street, say, hey, I want to do a TV show on what's going on downtown Haverhill. It's supposed to be a venue for us to go down, and they teach us how to use the equipment, and they give us access to do the show that we want. It's for public educational purposes, is really what it's about. And it's also for public government programming. It's why we have the city council on TV and why we have the school committee on TV.
You look pretty good on our TV right now, but I will tell you that more often than not, you are green.
Yeah, that's actually got to do with the what you said earlier, the frequency. There are certain frequencies that that Comcast gives us. That's actually beyond our control. That's a Comcast thing.
Are you sure?
Yes, that's a Comcast issue.
But I mean, channels 19, 20, 21,
oh, they
23,
come up,
24.
They're greenish at times as well. Yeah, it really depends. They have similar challenges.
Well, now, Education Channel is on 99. I think you're green there sometimes.
Yes, absolutely. Green. Sometimes my head's squiggly.
Well, City Council seems to think that it has to do with lighting. Who's responsible in the contract for sound and lighting?
There are different clauses in there. I think that the clauses in the contract say that Comcast sets up the system to broadcast, but the city also has certain responsibilities. I don't think it's a lighting issue. I think it's more a lot of the cables and the wiring in City Hall is so old that they require replacement. Now, they are supposed to replace it under the contract, but that's not HC Media. That's Comcast.
Comcast.
Yes.
Because I'm actually...
HC Media does a pretty good job with their programming and their production and all that. They have a lot of talent over there.
Well, okay, well, I'll try to remember to go back to that, and Nate's going to yell at me in a minute for being over time, but I'm going before City Council tomorrow, only because I have a big mouth and said something. I'm going before Council tomorrow because under the open meeting law, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but 2 weeks ago was Sunshine Week in Massachusetts. Attorney General Maura Healey wanted to make sure everyone, and whether you're on a volunteer on a board or you're an elected official like you are, so I'm the volunteer on the License Commission, you're the public elected official. Neither one of us is senator, by the way. But anyway, having fun with this. But anyway, the open meeting law was adjusted and regulations were adjusted for electronic media. So that, for example, City Council now allows Council President Mitchison to participate by telephone.
I actually did that for a meeting 2 years ago, over the summer.
All right. Now, here's the problem. Open meeting law expressly forbids electronic if it's not clearly audible. And I will tell you, watching City Council meeting a couple weeks ago, and Council President Mitchison on the speakerphone with a microphone in front of the speaker, and with the city clerk moving papers around next to that microphone, and with a whistle coming because of the speakers, he was inaudible. It was a violation of the open meeting law.
Yeah, you would think that in today's day and age, you could Skype in.
Well, here's a little box here, and I don't know, Nate's not going to be able to shoot this box, but this little box is how WHAV puts telephone calls on the air without any of those problems. Who makes those decisions? It's, again, Comcast isn't buying boxes for the council chambers. So is it HCTV or is it City Hall?
I think that's a City Hall. I can't answer that, but I think that would be a City Hall issue. I don't think things like that are addressed in the franchise agreement.
All right, so that's, folks, you're getting a sneak preview of my appearance before the City Council tomorrow night. We've hit a lot of issues with Paul, and I have one more that I'm going to hit with him at some point, but we won't do it on the air.
You want to solve the Middle East crisis?
Yeah, well, whatever we can do, if you can solve that. A call for our guests. All right, I think you're going to have to cut our movie review. You have to wear these to hear the call.
Oh, okay.
All right. You are on the Open Mic Show with School Committee Man Paul A. Magliocchetti.
Hello.
Are you talking to me?
Yes, I'm talking to you.
Oh, how nice. Mr. Magliocchetti, my name is Martha Bonner.
Yes.
And I have a question. I had a little trouble getting online, listening to, we don't get this channel on our TV. But I had a very important question, and please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
Because, as I say, I missed part of it because I had trouble getting online. Is it really true that the superintendent can change written, promulgated policy in the handbook regarding, in this particular case, the class rank AP issue and the early college, by the way, which is a great program? Willy-nilly, just kind of willy-nilly, just change the policy without vote, without, let's rewind, debate, discussion, teachers and advisors weighing in on it, then the school committee has to approve it. He can override all of that on a whim and just kind of willy-nilly? I can't believe that's true, so I'm hoping that I misunderstood what I heard.
Are you allowed to talk about this one?
This is borderline, but I think what I can say is at the last meeting, I did pick up on some changes that were made to the program of studies that I don't know if anyone else was aware of, but there was actually made, because the original draft of the program of studies was presented to us on February 26th. And between that time and the time the final came to us last week, which was 3 or 4 weeks, there was a material change in the areas that we had been discussing, and it was not presented to us until I raised them. Now, I believe it should have been. It should have been brought to our attention,
Definitely.
those changes, and I do believe that it should have been in an open discussion.
Right.
I also, and I'm talking to the Ethics Commission trying to get permission on this, but with regard to the legal opinion that was read into the record by School Committee President Scott Wood, I had some questions on that, which I was unable to raise, and I'm trying to get permission from the Ethics Commission to deal with that issue as well.
Okay, and please, again, correct me if I'm wrong. I want to be as humble as I can possibly be. Didn't Scott Wood at the last meeting state that the school committee does not make policy? Or, again, am I out of my mind? If I would have sworn I heard that.
I didn't hear him say that. What I did hear him say was that the issue of the weighting of grades was not within the purview of the school committee, and that is what is written in the legal opinion that was read into the record.
Okay, fine with that. Let's go back to the handbook. All of us parents and I dare say students have abided by the handbook as it's been published and communicated to us. We'll follow the rules. You wouldn't know this, but I have a son who's now in college, but he took a UMass Lowell college. He took 2 UMass Lowell courses as a junior and senior at the high school, for which he received honors credit. He wasn't the only one, by the way. There are many, as you probably know.
Not you, but someone brought that to my attention during the first meeting, and I mentioned it to the Director of Guidance, Tracy Incarnarcio, and her response was that was a mistake and that he should have been awarded AP credit. That was the response I got from the Director of Guidance.
Okay, well, then it sounds to me like she's sadly mistaken or is just misinformed, or maybe, I don't know, maybe she's not very good at her job. I don't know. I don't know who she is. I just, she's head of guidance. Okay.
Listener, actually, you said you could not watch us on TV, so how are you?
I'm listening online.
Oh, good.
She has DirecTV.
I have DirecTV, so I don't get your channel.
Well, that's a good point that Stanley Colton was making about more and more people switch to satellite, the less they'll be able to get us. But you're happy to know HAV will be at 97.9 FM this summer.
Oh, FM. Oh, that's very good, because my AM's, if it was AM, I get AM, but of course it's pretty staticky.
I know. We've been licensed to go on 97.9 FM. So
well, congratulations.
You'll have a choice, but we really do appreciate your call. We have just about 30 seconds if you have one last question for the school committee man.
Well, from Mr. Magliocchetti, all I'm saying is these students who have engaged in these AP courses have worked themselves to death. They are very well-rounded. They play sports. They're musical. They are involved in all kinds of extracurricular activities, some of which have been in the newspaper because we've hosted them here at my home, raising money for the poor, raising food for the food pantry. There are all these AP students. And I just don't understand why they can be, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for, like blindsided that these students in the early college program, which, by the way, is a great program, but you cannot give them AP credit for courses they did not take and for an exam, a national exam, for which they did not sit.
I don't think that this discussion is over yet. I think that in the coming weeks there's going to be ongoing dialogue with regard to these issues.
I hope so.
As there should be,
I
because
hope so, yep.
you know, these issues have to get ironed out, and the most important thing is that the students need to respect each other, and they have to keep the tone of the way they talk to each other and the way they're dealing with the issue at a civil level.
I totally agree with you, because I have heard about the rumblings of that there's been some disrespect.
And that's really what we need to deal
bad.
with right now. But I do think that the issue needs to be ironed out and it needs to be addressed. And I do think that the school committee can be involved more than how President Wood is interpreting that legal opinion. So I will be trying to deal with that issue the following meeting and the one after that, if I'm allowed to.
Okay. Well, I hope you're a huge public servant, Mr. Magliocchetti, and I know on behalf of all the AP parents, we're very grateful for all of your efforts.
Thank you very much. But remember, I represent all parents.
Oh, yes, you do.
Including the
yes,
college
you do.
parents.
But you're open to both sides, and you're clear-headed, and you are a very, very wise young man, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, dear.
I'm sorry, listener, I'm sorry, I forgot your first name.
Oh, Martha.
Martha, well, while you're here, do you know anyone having a birthday in May or an anniversary, and you want to...
Oh, my God, you're so cute. I enjoyed Mr. Magliocchetti putting Mr. Magliocchetti into that little hat there. And I'm very hopeful that he wins the cake.
All right, so you don't want to put a competing applicant in.
Oh, no. I think it's wonderful the way Mr. Magliocchetti loves his dad, and I think that was a beautiful gesture.
That was very nice indeed.
Very. And it's very nice of you to ask me. Thank you very much.
I hope that you'll continue to listen to us online until our FM station's on air.
I certainly will, and I'm delighted about the FM station coming this summer.
Well, thank you very much, Martha.
Great. Thank you very much, too.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, one last question. When do you think you'll know the answer from the Ethics Commission?
Well, I spoke with them earlier today, and I asked them to give me, I was very specific with what I wanted from them, and I asked them to give me an opinion in writing. I mean, based on, like I said, I think that Mr. Scully is a good superintendent, and I respect his opinion, and if he's stating that class rank doesn't matter as far as college acceptance or for scholarships, then I have no conflict and I should be able to deal with the issue. That being said, even if there would be an issue with the weighting of the grades, I would say that I have the right to talk about the program, the early college program. And I really think that's what the parents were looking for on both sides. The early college parents wanted to let everyone know how hard their students work in that program, what those classes are like, and that they are legitimate college courses. And I think that the AP parents are trying to say, well, if they are that way, then let's compare the syllabuses and let's kind of iron this out and make sure we're getting it correctly. But there's another caveat to this that hasn't been discussed, and it's a taxpayer issue. Because a lot of the courses that are being offered at Northern Essex in the program are courses we already offer at Haverhilll High School. Why is that? If you're going to have a college program that complements what you have at the high school, why wouldn't you offer courses that you don't have at the high school? Why would you offer the same exact courses that you already have at the high school? Because taxpayers are paying for this. So they're not only paying for the public education at Haverhilll High, they're paying, they're supplementing these families' college education expenses because they're paying for college credits at Northern Essex Community College for courses they could be taking for free at Haverhil High School. That's a taxpayer issue.
That's interesting. That reminds me of one thing. Nate's going to start yelling at me because we're over time. But I think you mentioned to me...
Two former Senate candidates, we can talk all night
long.
I
know, we could. You handled yourself pretty well in those debates. But you mentioned something to me on the telephone when we were working on this news story last week, and I found it very interesting. I don't know if you were being hypothetical or talking about you have a daughter at the school?
A daughter, yeah.
And you said that the inability of an advanced placement student, at least originally, to take the early college program could conceivably cost a parent up to $60,000 in college tuition.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't take them at the high school, they now have to pay for those 27 credits somewhere else.
That's right.
So you do see this as a financial
issue.
facing
Absolutely.
families. All right. Well, I certainly appreciate that you're coming in to talk about this. Again, opposing views always welcome on the Open Mic Show. Just call 978-374-1900. I'll either have you on by phone or you can come in to the studio and we'll discuss this. But I found this very illuminating. I found it very interesting as a citizen to see this play out. And again, one last time, I thought it was interesting that the Ethics Commission was essentially telling you that your concern about financial interest was actually, pardon the term, on the money. So, all right, listeners, we'll be back after local news with WHAV News Director Dana Esmel, national news from FSN, and local weather.
Open Mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
It's 8:05.
WHAV Merrimack Valley. WHAV is a not-for-profit service of Public Media of New England Incorporated. It's heard on 1640 AM, the web, at whav.net, and participating cable television stations.
Here's what's happening in local news. The Haverhill City Council are expected Tuesday to schedule a public hearing to permit redevelopment of the former Friends Landing site, 85 Water Street, with a 59-unit multifamily structure under guidelines for the city's waterfront zoning district. Water Street Waterfront LLC, represented by attorney Joseph P. Sullivan, Newburyport, is seeking a special permit allowing a, quote, density bonus under the zoning ordinance for plans to expand and improve public access to the Merrimack River waterfront and adjacent River Rest Park. The manager of Water Street Waterfront is Frank J. Franzoni. Quote, the proposed development will greatly enhance physical public access to and enjoyment of land along the Merrimack River. The site is directly abutted by Wall Street, a public way running along the Merrimack River, which provides access to the river. The applicant proposes to provide a permanent 15-foot access from Water Street to the waterfront across the project site and to also provide easements allowing for the expansion of the park to the east, Sullivan said in a letter to the council. When contacted, the law firm listed by Sullivan said he is no longer employed there. They said Sullivan is now an attorney for a Boston title insurance company. Sullivan is a former member of the Haverhill Planning Board and a former chairman of the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission. Project plans call for 59 multifamily units, including, quote, professional or artist live-work units, a decrease from a 96-unit plan approved by the council in 2003. A public hearing would be scheduled on May 19. Investors within Water Street Waterfront were not disclosed. In a related matter, councilors are being asked to approve the transfer of $7,700 to fund an architectural peer review of the plans, a provision under the city's Waterfront Zoning Act. Mayor James J. Fiorentini has recommended council approval. The Haverhill City Council meets at 7 p.m. Tuesday in council chambers at Haverhill City Hall. A Billerica waste hauling firm has paid $62,500 to settle claims that it illegally dumped multiple loads of construction and demolition waste at an unpermitted site in Methuen, Attorney General Maura Healey announced Friday. According to the complaint filed Thursday, along with the consent judgment in Suffolk Superior Court, W.L. French Excavating Corporation allegedly violated the state's solid waste disposal laws by dumping 29 loads of construction and demolition waste, including concrete, bricks, and asphalt, at the site over a period of 14 days. A separate complaint was also filed against New Hampshire-based waste removal company Giggs LLC for allegedly dumping more than 244 loads of construction and demolition debris at the Bat Ye site over a period of 45 days. According to the complaints, Thomas Bat Yee, owner of the Methuen site on Old Ferry Road, never applied for or received the site assignment from the Methuen Board of Health needed to operate a solid waste facility there and did not receive the necessary solid waste management facility permit from the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection. Bat Yee was the subject of a separate action brought by the Commonwealth related to solid waste violations at the Methuen site. The Attorney General's office is also pursuing claims against additional waste haulers and demolition contractors who dumped or contracted for solid waste disposal at the Bat Yee site. For more details, visit whav.net. In local high school sports, no scheduled matches on Monday for the Whittier Tech Wildcats. Remember, WHAV is the only Haverhill-based news source, and it's always free. In the Edwin V. Johnson newsroom, this is Dana Esmel.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Rebecca Foster. Kenya has bombed areas inside Somalia, targeting Islamist militant group al-Shabaab, responsible for last week's attack on a Kenyan university that left nearly 150 people dead. Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta had vowed to respond in the severest way possible. The airstrikes have destroyed 2 al-Shabaab camps, according to Kenyan military officials. Gary Alfonso reports.
Kenyan warplanes have bombed camps inside Somalia, which they believe al-Shabaab terrorists use to plan attacks and cross into Kenya. 5 people with possible links to the massacre of students at the Garissa University College have been arrested in Kenya. One of the 4 extremists who died in the attack has been identified as the son of a Kenyan government official.
The Obama administration says it has not yet agreed on a timetable to lift sanctions on Iran as part of the P5+1 agreement on Tehran's nuclear program. Last week, it was announced the parties had reached the framework to begin drafting a deal, wherein Iran would greatly reduce its nuclear program in exchange for a lifting of EU and U.S. sanctions. Iranian representatives have said they expect all sanctions to be lifted when the deal is signed. But the Obama administration says they want to phase out sanctions slowly in order to keep pressure on Iran and until they see proof Iran is following through on the terms of the deal. White House spokesperson Josh Earnest said the timetable will be negotiated in coming months.
It is the strong view of the administration that it would not be wise and it would not be in the interest of the international community to simply take away all of the sanctions on day one. It is our view that, based on Iran's history, that it would be most conducive to the success of the agreement for Iran to continue to have an incentive for complying with the agreement.
Closing arguments are underway in the case against alleged Boston Marathon bomber Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, who is charged with killing 3 people and wounding more than 260 others in the worst terrorist attack on U.S. soil since 9/11. This is the last step before the jury begins deliberations to decide if the state proves Tsarnaev's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Patrice Howard reports from Boston.
Marathon bombing victims, their families, and friends watched intently from the gallery as prosecutor Alok Chakravarty used his closing statement to characterize the alleged bomber Dzhokhar Tsarnaev as a bloodthirsty killer. Chakravarty said the evidence speaks for itself, showing the jury the most graphic photos and videos from that marathon Monday. A guilty verdict seems likely to return for most of the 30 charges against Tsarnaev, whose lawyer confirmed his involvement in the attacks on day 1 of the trial.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Wave weather.
I'm WHAV meteorologist Gary Best with wave weather. Mostly cloudy skies for the Merrimack Valley during the night. Some light rain or showers developing. Low temperature upper 30s to about 40. During the day Tuesday, periods of rain and only between 40 and 45 degrees. Rain could end as some wet snow Tuesday night. Low temperatures near 32. And then mostly cloudy skies on Wednesday. Could be a shower. High temperatures up near 40. This is Gary Best. You're next to wave weather coming up in 30 minutes.
Still not sure when your favorite features are broadcast? Check out the What's On page at www.whav.net for complete listings.
WHAV, Merrimack Valley.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents The Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
And welcome back to the Open Mic Show. That was a great discussion with School Committee man Paul Magliocchetti. Hit a lot of different issues. This hour of the Open Mic Show is being brought to you by the Merrimack Valley Economic Development Council. Smart companies choose the Merrimack Valley. Nate, I see my little red light is on. Should it be? Oh, there's a call. Why don't we go right to the calls? You are on the Open Mic Show.
Good evening, Tim.
Jerry, I don't know if you heard your name earlier.
Yes, I did, and I just wanted to say you've lost your wisdom teeth, but you haven't lost your wisdom.
You know what's funny is that you left me a voicemail, and I think you said, well, as long as it's not your wisdom teeth or something.
Oh, yeah, that must have been something, Tim.
You know, at 54 years old, to have those wisdom teeth come out.
Yeah, at that age, I mean. Generally, people, I've never heard of them taken out at that time, but...
Well, my problem was that...
impacted.
Well, it was not completely, and that was the problem. You can't really brush it well. And then the tooth actually cracked.
Oh.
And so then
there was two pieces then that had to be removed.
Terrible pain.
Oh,
and I have to admit, I kept putting it off. And then finally, I really couldn't handle it anymore, and had to have two wisdom teeth out. I have to say that they're still looking at the other two, so I don't know what'll happen.
Oh, God.
So it's funny that you said that, and I've been meaning to get...
when they said dental work, I said to myself, the only thing that would keep you off, it'd have to be an awful lot of pain.
Yeah, well, it was the wisdom teeth.
Off the radio, off the program.
Oh, that's okay.
I know how you love that station and that program.
I actually would have been willing to come on last week because I was not in that much pain afterward, thanks to all of the medication and stuff. But I figured you probably wouldn't want me drooling and slurring my speech. So,
I see.
Hey, Jerry, you sent 2 tickets here, Methuen Police Patrolmen's Association Comedy Night. Did you want us to give those away?
You can do what you wish with them, Tim. If you want to give them to the staff, use them yourself and give them to staff, that's fine. Or if you want to give them out as gifts or something like that, that's fine too, really.
Jerry, you are very generous.
Well, I'm at 86, 87 next week. Is it the 15th? Yeah. We don't get out, after hours, after supper at all, really,
Well, that's very kind of you, and we really appreciate your take on all the issues. And I haven't had a chance to call you back, and I don't know if you want to discuss this on the air or not, so you tell me. You have sent a letter about an issue?
Yes, but I'll coin the phrase, don't print that at this particular time. I've never been really successful at anything of these. Speaking of the Ethics Commission, I on at least 2, maybe 3 occasions, my view of conflict is if it looks like a conflict, smells like a conflict, it generally is. And so in the past, I had submitted a letter. You have to go write a letter, and then I get the usual form letter back, no issue. So
you mean they've already looked at your...
They are, huh?
Oh, so they already looked at your issue.
Yeah.
Oh, what do you know about that? Well,
no, they haven't. No.
Oh, okay.
That was to the Secretary of State. The others were to the Ethics Commission.
Oh, okay. I see.
The ones in the past. I just want to reiterate that I'm really surprised at the Ethics Commission being so aggressive with Haverhil, generally, as I said, I've never had much success. I think I've written two, maybe 3 letters where I felt that I'm not an attorney, obviously, but I kind of felt that they were breaches of ethics.
Well, you had many, many years in state government, so I think if you would know, and I have to say, if given the choice of listening to state officials or listening to you, I'm going to choose you every time. I did find it very interesting that a third of the Haverhill City Council and a third of the Haverhill School Committee cannot look at certain issues. Because
it's taken home rule away, isn't it?
Well, that was my first thought.
Is this a democratic process, or is it like getting to a certain president's executive orders?
Right, it's incredible, isn't it? So
yes, it is.
My thought was that people elect. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. If you have a different view, I'm going to probably think yours is better. But people often elect parents to the school committees because parents understand, and because
I totally agree with you.
And because he's a parent, they say, "Oh, you have a conflict." So I just thought that was incredible. That's why I asked him to be on the show.
Exactly, he's a parent. So what?
Now I do think other parents have a good point as well. The adults are fighting over an issue, and the kids are starting to fight about it too. And that is a problem, and I don't know how we solve that.
I just wanted to, you talked a little about the open bidding, and I looked at that some time ago, and one of the things that I saw was that in some situations where a community is going out for what they call goods and services, not the school building fund or anything like that, but goes out for goods and services. I think the number is 10,000 that's required. But what I saw on several occasions, they would split contracts to make them below the 10,000.
Interesting. There are lots
it's common. It's done. You know.
There's a lot of games, and there was
yes, and then I saw a letter. I got a copy of a letter. A community went out for goods and services, and there was an opinion of the Ethics Commission asked, and I saw a very, very strong letter for, I can't remember who he was at that particular time, but basically he agreed that it wasn't a requirement, but he really focused on the transparency. In other words, yes, maybe in this particular situation it's not needed. It's not necessary that it be an open bid, and then he went into 2 or 3 paragraphs while he thought it was a good business principle, but focused on transparency more than anything,
And actually,
and I noticed that tonight the City of Methuen City Council, they implemented their transparency policy. They went into executive session again, and they're just back.
So they go into secret session to vote to be transparent.
Yeah.
I think that is hilarious.
Yeah, they promise when they're running for election that they're going to be transparent, and then the first thing you see is they go in. Who knows? What's the name of that singer there? Behind Closed Doors.
Oh yes. Yeah, the country song. Well, it's funny.
Willie.
Is it Willie Nelson?
Yeah.
Well,
behind closed doors.
Yeah. Well, I just found I have to tell you something that the media does that really annoys government officials. We don't like to use the term executive session. We like to call it what it is: secret.
Yeah.
And they don't like that because that tells the public exactly what really is happening.
Yeah.
And so we always say secret. You'll find that most newspapers will do the same thing. And there's actually an additional trade reason why.
Speaking of, yeah.
I mean, the trade, the Associated Press style says use the simplest language possible.
I'm on the phone, yeah. I was talking to my wife. I just want to say, I from time to time I've been reading your news, and boy, Tim. Hello, Tim.
Yes.
I can't believe the amount of work that I just writing a letter. A good letter is tedious. But how the heck do you put these news releases together?
Well, I have to say, I have to give a lot of credit. We have a news director Dana Esmol. We have 2 interns, paid interns, and I help where I can. And I have to say, my background is journalism. I got my start in news. I worked at WHAV, the Haverhilll Gazette when it was a daily, the Daily News of Newburyport. And I have to say, I'm used to a competitive media environment.
I see.
And I think that other media have gotten used to, like, well, if they don't do it, no one else will, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And so it shouldn't be possible that WHAV News will beat every other media on local news every day.
You write some excellent. Your phrasing, your style, your punctuation. Tell me something. Did you go to a parochial school?
I did go to parochial school only for Sunday school, but not for education. No.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
But that's quite a compliment, because people that I know that went to parochial school have the best penmanship and the best writing skills.
And best spelling too.
Yes, I will tell you though that if you saw my penmanship, you would know I did not go to parochial schools.
Well, if you saw mine, you certainly know that I did. And I, like you, went to Sunday school, and I always got perfect attendance. So we were rewarded, of course. We got a box of that hard candy for a Christmas present every year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to let you go. Maybe you've got another caller or two that can get in.
Jerry, it's great to hear from you. Sorry it's taken me a while to get back to you.
No, that's fine.
But you hit the nail on the head when you said in the voicemail, what was it, wisdom teeth? Yeah. Absolutely right. All right, thank you so much, Jerry. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, just a few minutes left on the open mic show. Again, WHAV likes to hear from responsible spokespeople, whether it's on our news programs, whether it's on Community Spotlight, which airs 1/4 every hour, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whether it's on this program. So I'm talking to you. If you're the head of a local group, a local charity, you're involved in municipal government, we want to hear from you at WHAV. Again, some of you may want to record your own announcements for Community Spotlight, talking about what events are coming up in your charity or civic group. Some of you maybe want to contribute to an item on the news. You're certainly welcome to do that. I was very pleased that School Committeeman Paul Magliocchetti came on the program tonight. I just couldn't believe it when we were working on these stories last week that the Ethics Commission has kept a third of our city council from voting on parking and a third of our school committee from voting on education issues. I'm not saying I agree or disagree with any of the issues, but is that, and I can't attribute the author right now, but as someone said, I disagree with what you say on occasion, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it. So in that regard, as we close, we do have a call. Oh, we have another call, so I won't go into my monologue now. You're on the open mic show.
Yes, I did that just to save us all from the monologue.
David Godswood, open mic show.
The quote you're saying is attributed to Whittier in the Haverhilll newspaper masthead, but it's actually Voltaire.
Yeah, okay. I actually knew it wasn't Whittier, because Whittier's is from another one. It's let the truth, undisguised, naked, terrible as it is, stand out before us.
Because we need more naked Quakers in Haverhill.
Well, you've just ruined the imagery for a lot of people. Nate keeps trying to show me something. Nate keeps trying to show me something, but I have no idea what he's talking about.
It's a birthday slip.
Oh, you're calling it a birthday. Oh, this wasn't
allowed.
This wasn't just to keep me from my monologue.
Yes, I'm telling you, I'm desperate here.
All right, so David, whose birthday is it?
Why, it's my brother Joseph.
Your brother Joseph. Happy birthday, Joseph. Joseph is a meteorologist, right?
That is correct. He is a weather incident specialist.
He actually studied with one of our meteorologists, Rob Carrollin, I understand.
Yes, they were buddies at Linden State College.
How such a small world it is, listeners.
Oh, it's not a lot of colleges that do television meteorology.
Hey, David, you're a cynic. Well, first of all, happy birthday to Joseph. Yeah, I'll get to that. Actually, let me finish up Joseph. So Joe is, when's his birthday?
May 12th, Mother's Day.
May 12th, Mother's Day.
Was that year, anyway.
All right, what do you think of the mayor's survey on two questions, parking in downtown Haverhill and medical marijuana? You're a cynic. What do you think? You think he did this because of WHAV stories and wants to either confirm or shape the outcome, or do you think it's a complete coincidence?
Why, it's a complete coincidence, of course. Just because the exact same people always answer the questions, that's just coincidental. And they always vote with him, strictly coincidental.
I just found it kind of interesting. I think it's a compliment. I want to thank the mayor because I think it's a compliment to WHAV that our two major breaking stories last week became the subject of his Q&A.
Well, I think part of the problem, and I'll be honest with you, I've lived far enough away, long enough that I have a different perspective than I would have living in town. But I lived in Harrisburg, PA for 10 years, where they had a mayor who was essentially the mayor for life. And when he finally announced he wasn't going to run again, everybody knew they were in trouble. And sure enough, they were the first major city to go bankrupt.
Okay.
He had a rubber stamp city council. He did what he wanted, when he wanted, with the money he wanted. And when the good times ended, so did the city, basically.
Well, that may be a lesson for us all, isn't it? Well, David,
I called for a particular reason,
all right,
criticism aside.
All right.
And that is to remind everyone that I'll be on Travel Channel Friday.
Oh, thank you very much for bringing that up. I'd forgotten all about it.
Yeah, that's kind of why I had to call.
David Goudswood's going to be on the Travel Channel. There's been some debate here. In our TV guides, it's listed on two different channels, 54 and 64, something like that. Nate,
a lot of these are all, they all have multiple channels these days. There's probably a Travel Channel International.
Okay. So you're on one of them, and you're talking about...
I'm on domestic.
All right, and you're going to discuss what, David?
We're going to just talk about WHAV's favorite crackpot physician, Dr. Duncan McDougall.
This is the man who weighed souls.
The man who tried to weigh souls. And to be completely honest, I'm being disingenuous calling him a crackpot. He actually wasn't. He was legitimately trying to solve a problem within the Presbyterian Church. He just didn't really do it well or with the right type of publicity.
Folks, if you want to learn more, go to WHAV.net. Down near the bottom of the homepage, you'll see news about WHAV, and you will see more information right there so that you can have what you need to go check out that channel. So it is... headline. Actually, there's a picture of David right there. WHAV's Man Who Weighed Souls item inspires Travel Channel segment. And by inspires, I mean David Goudswood made it happen. Thank you.
In all fairness, I sent them a copy of the article I wrote for Wavelength. I just basically printed it out as a PDF.
And that's WHAV's monthly newsletter.
Mm-hmm. And rather than pitch a story to them, I just said, here, does this one have any interest to you? And they said, yes, indeed.
The only problem was finding a large enough Fairbanks scale, right?
Yes, that was... Well, the concept of the show is that they go to a museum, they examine an artifact, and then they tell the story of why that artifact is in the museum. In this particular case, we needed a scale because the hospital is no longer standing, and his house on Main Street's no longer standing, which basically, I should clarify this, it was originally going to be an episode of Monumental Mysteries, which would have used the house or the hospital. But when we couldn't find a monument of that size for that show, we transferred over to the other show.
Right, because the house is gone. The house where Social Security's office is gone. There's nothing at the cemetery, is that right?
He's buried at Mount Auburn, and apparently there is no headstone for him, just actually, I don't even think there's a family marker. The judge has a marker, and that's about it. His father and the grandfather, who would be Dr. McDougall, doesn't have any sort of marking on the plot.
All right, David, I'm afraid I'm going to have to close down the open mic as we're already off television, and Nate is already starting to pack things up. So, but thanks for the plug, and thanks for preventing my monologue.
Well, you know,
somebody had to do it.
We all love your monologue, but we got to mix it up a little bit.
All right. No, I appreciate your calling in, and I don't think I gave you or anyone else any notice of my wisdom tooth problem, which turned into a wisdom teeth problem.
Well, we were deeply concerned. We were afraid that once they took out the wisdom teeth, you might start talking Republican.
Oh. I don't know which one of us you insulted the most, the Republicans or yours truly.
Well, you think about it, get back to me.
All right. David, thanks so much. Folks, if you want to buy one of David's books, he's a prolific author, lots of interesting topics. Go to WHAV's homepage, go down to the bottom of the page, and you will see his latest book is featured there, which is, and I always mess up the name, Horror Guide to New England, or is it Massachusetts?
Massachusetts.
I always throw New England in there. Horror Guide to Massachusetts.
Well, we did one a long time ago on the whole of New England. And then coming out in about 10 weeks will be Horror Guide to Florida.
All right, so look for those topics. For easy link, and if you buy it at the members shop on WHAV, it doesn't hurt David at all, but Amazon kicks a few dollars, well, probably a few pennies, to WHAV.
I believe you get 32 cents, but don't quote me.
I see. But folks, that helps. Every cent helps. Every 32 of them, too.
That's a lot of help.
Well, David, thank you very much. Really appreciate your calling in.
Nice talking to you, Tim.
All right, take care.
See you next week.
All right, thanks. Bye. All right, Nate wants overtime. Sorry. Let's go. 8:35. Let's leave for local weather. We'll be back next week with more of the Open Mic Show. This hour of the Open Mic Show has been brought to you by the Merrimack Valley Economic Development Council. Smart companies choose the Merrimack Valley.
Open Mic!
Join Tim Coco live on the Open Mic again next Monday night at 6:30. The opinions expressed on the Open Mic Show are not necessarily those of WHAV, its underwriters, or affiliated stations. The Open Mic Show came to you from the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom.
It's 8:36.
Phil Christie here. Did you know you can hear comedy and drama every night? Listen to these remastered classics at 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. Only local radio can bring you this combination of music, news, and features. But only WHAV does.
Catch the wave!
Those political sound bites you hear on the news are, at best, incomplete and could be misleading or even outright lies. This is David Pakman. Take time to delve into the truth by listening to The David Pakman Show, Tuesday through Friday nights at 8 on WHAV. Lack of logic and reason are exposed on The David Pakman Show as newsmakers collapse under cross-examination. Remember, only local radio can bring you this talk opportunity, but only WHAV does.
Wave weather!
I'm WHAV meteorologist Gary Best with wave weather. Mostly cloudy skies for the Merrimack Valley during the night. Some light rain or showers developing. Low temperature upper 30s to about 40. During the day Tuesday, periods of rain and only between 40 and 45 degrees. Rain could end as some wet snow Tuesday night. Low temperatures near 32. And then mostly cloudy skies on Wednesday. Could be a shower. High temperatures up near 40. This is Gary Best. Your next wave weather coming up in 30 minutes.
W